Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I am your host, as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in the Greenville area of South Carolina. You can find all of my contact information in the show notes / show description, depending on what podcast app you're using. Also, depending on what podcast app you're using, please leave me a 5-star rating for the show. Please leave a short little review. Not every podcast app allows for that. The main one is the Apple Podcast app. And if you're just clicking the link, for instance, some of you are on my email list. And if you just click the link from the email, that will take you to basically a web browser version of the podcast. You have to actually open the show in the Apple Podcast app in order to leave the rating. You open the show and then you scroll down a little bit and then you can see where the 5 stars are. You hit that little 5-star button and that's it. I think the only other major app that allows a rating and a review is Spotify. So if you're using Spotify as well, that's another way that you can support the show. Otherwise, the main way to support the show is just to subscribe and download episodes. Those things all help the show out. So I appreciate it if you guys can go ahead and do that. Thank you as always for listening. This is actually my first podcast that I'm recording in the month of September, even though I've been releasing content that was all recorded in the month of August because I knew that it was going to be my life is going to be crazy. I'm in the process of moving. I'm staying in the upstate, of course. I'm just relocating from the Greer area to the Greenville area. Still staying within Greenville County, but a little bit more central to everything that I need to do, everywhere that I need to get to. And also we're going from a 0.15 acre lot to a 1.5 acre lot. So literally basically a 10 times larger lot, which will give us more space, but also a whole lot more yard work. So I've already had to purchase a ride-on mower for the first time in my life. So lots of exciting things happening. I'm in the throes and process of moving, which is not something that I enjoy. I pity all of you that are listening to this podcast that have moved recently because I am, like I said, in the throes of it. It's probably, like, out of all of the things that I have to do in life, moving is probably my least favorite thing to do. I'm not even joking. I absolutely hate to move. I've done it now 5 times in my life, and I've helped other people move as well. Every time I do not enjoy it. Like, every time I hate every process, every aspect of it. So this will be the first time that I'm actually hiring movers because I think that will assist with the process. Shout out to Swamp Rabbit Moving. That is who I intend to use for our move this year. We have a lot of good movers in the area. I've heard the best things about Swamp Rabbit Moving. So we'll see how good they end up being. And perhaps I'll give some feedback on that a little bit later. But today I want to talk about what the market is doing, because I have definitely personally seen a major shift as we have gone from the August market, what the market was like in August, to now what the market is like in September. Now, this shouldn't come as a huge surprise because there is always a shift that happens when you transition from summer into fall. By the time people get to fall, there's a lot fewer moves happening. People typically are wanting to stay within the same school district, right? Their kids are already in school. They certainly don't want to go far away from, move far away from wherever the kids' schools are going to be. And you also just have the standard people just kind of buckling down for, okay, we're entering kind of this pseudo holiday season. Yeah, it's still early, but you go to Costco, it is not early there. They are full-blown selling Christmas stuff. I mean, they've already gone past Halloween. We're already past Halloween in Costco holiday time, which is crazy. Costco, I don't know how they figure their algorithm for when they sell these holiday things, but it is already Christmas time if you go there. And I refuse to purchase Christmas things at this time of year. But apparently, Costco shoppers are thinking, several months ahead when it comes to holiday shopping. So God bless them. That is not me. All that to be said, I don't know where all that came from. That is not, I have no notes for the show, so I may be just rambling a little bit here. Really, my primary thing that I want to talk about is the shift in the market. We've been monitoring this every month. Obviously, what we've been seeing with what's happening, with mortgage rates increasingly climbing higher and higher and higher, we've seen demand cooling off, and we've seen that result in an increase in supply. Now, last month, I noted that we saw an interesting trend where new listings went from increasing majorly to we saw new listings decrease for the month of July. Remember, when I'm looking at statistics, I don't obviously have September statistics yet because September, we're in the middle of it. I'm recording this on September 19th. We don't yet know exactly what the numbers for the month of September are going to be, so we have to look at the month before. So last month, when we talked about this in the month of August, I was looking at July. July had and this might be slightly different from what we looked at because these numbers do get slightly revised, but July, new listings were down 2.9% year on year. So versus July 2021, this year's numbers, the new listings were down 2.9%. And as I noted at that time, that indicates that the market is adjusting for the lower demand. And so people are seeing, okay, demand is slowing down, and so fewer people are listing their houses. And so what the result of that could be is that we don't see a complete bottoming out of the market. We don't see a complete flip from seller's market to buyer's market. I've been saying this whole time, I don't really anticipate that flip happening, at least not overnight, absent some kind of major economic event happening. But we are expecting, and I am expecting, to see a gradual slowdown, and that's exactly what's happening, and that's what's been happening, and the numbers further support this. My own personal business further supports this. Now, I have, for the month of September, 8 closings.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Thank you, Siri. I appreciate that. Siri said that she couldn't get that, and that was my Apple Watch going off. I thought I had everything silenced. I guess not. Not my Apple Watch. I have 8 closings for the months of September, which is a lot of closings. I mean, let's just be honest. As a realtor, sometimes I have months where I don't have any closings. Like that does happen. If things just time out in just the right way, absolutely, there can be months where I don't technically make a single dollar. This is just what it's like being a realtor. This month of September, if everything pans out the way it's supposed to, I will have ended up with 8 closings. So that for me is a very good month. The average realtor doesn't even have 8 closings in an entire year. The average, obviously, it's that averages are very top heavy and very bottom heavy at the same time. All right, so all of that to be said, it's a busy month for me, but I'm looking at the pipeline and I'm seeing, okay, I think for sure I'm going to see a major slowdown in the fourth quarter of this year, and that's where we're heading. My business is heading for a major slowdown fourth quarter of this year. I'm okay with that. I am 100% okay with that. 8 closings in a single month is a lot of closings. That's at least the way my business currently is structured. That's not really a sustainable pace for me. And I've been knowing that this slowdown was happening. And so I've been preparing accordingly. I'm ready for it. And I think that a lot of my buyer clients, particularly my investor clients, are positioned to really benefit from this slowdown when we actually see the net result of it from this slowdown actually happening. Now, up until this month, I had not personally seen like a major dramatic impact from the changing market, but now I'm starting to see it. And here's how personally I'm starting to see it. I have a listing right now. It's actually a property that I'm selling. It's a townhome. It's a property that I own. I'm trying to sell it. At least that's plan A. As you guys know, with all of my investment properties, I have multiple exit strategies. So if I can't sell it for what I'm looking for, I have multiple backup plans for what I'm going to do with that property. But plan A was to sell it. I listed it on the market in August. We had multiple offers, multiple very good offers. It was honestly kind of a coin flip on which one I was going to accept. I ended up accepting an offer with an agent that I trusted. Okay, here's what happens. This is the property that was listed for below $200,000, which is well below the median price point right now in Greenville County. Here's what happens when you sell a house well below the median price point in Greenville County. You get a lot of buyer's agents that don't know what they're doing. You get a lot of first-time home buyers that also don't really understand what they're doing in terms of purchasing and purchasing homes. Maybe they barely have enough money to get pre-approved anyway. There's just a lot of things that happen. So it's always more difficult to sell a cheap property than it is to sell a more expensive property. Every aspect is easier with a more expensive property. You have typically better agents representing buyers for the more expensive properties. You have buyers that have more money. You have buyers that have more experience. And really the only more challenging thing at higher price points is that the buyers are going to be pickier about some things. But to be completely honest, buyers on the cheaper end of the spectrum, they are also picky. So to me, it's kind of a wash. Obviously, just from a strict commission standpoint, any agent prefers to be working on more expensive properties, listing more expensive properties, working with buyers that are looking at more expensive properties. That's just common sense, right? But from a sheer work perspective, it's a whole lot more work for everyone on the cheaper end of the spectrum. Okay, now with all of that in the background, I had to decide between essentially 3 offers that were roughly equivalent at the end of the day. And the one I went with was the one that had a buyer's agent that I trusted the most out of the 3. The one of the 3 offers was an agent that I've actually known this person since school. And by school, I mean Bob Jones. When I went to college at Bob Jones, I've known this person since then. We overlapped several years at Bob Jones University. He did not seem like he knew what he was doing, just quite frankly. He sent the initial offer on the wrong offer form, ignored all of my notes that said, here are some of the things to write into the offer. Like there's some basic things in terms of mailing addresses and things like that are important now because of how the due diligence and termination fee aspect of the contract has changed, which we've talked about on previous episodes. And anyway, he ignored all of that. There were some other things about the offer that kind of wasn't strong, that I wasn't really happy about. Another offer that came in was way above the list price, but the buyer had like every way to get out of the contract if they wanted to. They could have gotten out, scot-free during the due diligence period if they wanted to. They had appraisal contingencies, every single contingency besides the home sale contingency. So every single way that they could have basically gotten out of the contract or renegotiated it. And to me, it was just like, yeah, you tried to wow me with like this really high purchase price, but then you're just going to end up kind of weaseling your way out of this most likely. And so I went with an offer that was a strong offer in a lot of different ways, and I liked the buyer's agent. Unfortunately, that buyer's agent failed me, which I'm disappointed about. And I don't, we as agents, we can't control everything, and I don't think that she was trying to pull the wool over my eyes. A lot of work for a buyer's agent to have a contract fall through, but this one, we went through everything. We went through inspections, appraisals, repairs. All of that stuff was completed, and then 30 days after we'd gone under contract, I got that phone call, and that's one of those gut punch moments when you see the phone call, when there's not anything that is needing to be done, right? We're basically done with everything. We're waiting until closing, and I get a phone call from the agent for the other party. 99% of the time, something is wrong, and sure enough, it was the phone call to say, hey, the pre-approval letter had, the bank issued a bad pre-approval. The buyer does not have enough funds in reserve. Their debt to income is too high. They can't qualify for financing. And that it was a situation where it was kind of the worst case scenario because they had a financing contingency in there. So I couldn't even go after the earnest money in this instance because they're protected by that financing contingency. Now, if I really, really wanted to, I probably could have gone after the earnest money on the basis that I have a hunch that this buyer misrepresented something to the bank that they were pre-approved with, because they needed far too much money in cash reserves for them to have accurately represented things to the lender. But at the end of the day, the difficulty that it would have been to try to get that, it was like, I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000. The difficulty that it would have been for me to try to get that earnest money was not worth it. And during that time, you can't relist the property because you're still technically under contract. And so I just let them go, relisted it. Now remember, in August, multiple offers on the property. I relisted it in the month of September, a little more than a week ago at this point, and we're getting showings. We have not gotten offers yet. Now I've had a few verbal offers come in that I've just said, hey, no, I'm not ready to accept that. Either below list price or whatever the case may be. And we're getting plenty of interest, but it's a different market now. We have seen a major that's a major switch going from multiple offers in August to now a week and a half and no offers outside of verbal offers in the month of September. And what a lot of people are giving me feedback on is that their buyers kind of just started the search and they're not yet ready to actually make an offer. What does that tell me? That tells me there are other fish in the sea for them. They have other properties that they are looking at, and this is what happens. We have a lot more supply now than we did even just a month ago. And so now buyers have a lot more options, and they're not panicking. They're not making panic purchases. They're not immediately saying, okay, this came back on the market. I need to purchase this. I need to make an offer right away. They're now able to take their time a little bit more, whereas in the past it was, okay, my options are limited, particularly when you got to that below $200,000 price point. They would say, man, my options are limited, have to go under contract right away or else there's going to be a problem. Now for me, I'm not panicking. This is what the market is supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be seeing this kind of slowdown. I'm glad that, honestly, that this is my property versus a listing for one of my clients. It's incredibly frustrating to have this type of thing happen, but for me, I'm okay with it. I do this for a living, right? I buy and sell and list and help buyer clients sell real estate for a living. I understand the process. It does not shock me that here I am with this property that it came back on the market. Condos and townhomes disproportionately fall through more so than other contracts on townhomes and condos. So it did not surprise me that it fell through. I did everything I could to avoid that, but sometimes that just happens. You can't account for, like I said, for a buyer potentially having misinformed their lender when they filled out their lender's questionnaire, hiding something on there or whatever the case may be that they thought they could get away with. You can't account for all of those things. There's just no way to eliminate those things from the equation. And so, long story short, I personally, I'm not panicking. The property, either it will sell for a price that I want it to sell for, or I'm just going to use it as a rental in one form or another. But either way, it has been a very eye-opening experience. It's like, okay, in just a 4-week period of time, we have seen the market really change quite a bit. And we have the wow, that sounded weird. GGAR, the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors market stats for this month, which covers up to the month of August. We had those stats, and these stats also bear out these changes happening. Because I have kind of rambled for a little bit here, I'm not going to spend as much time on these as I normally would. I'm just going to hit a few highlights here. So new listings, remember, for the month of July, they were down year on year. Now for August, they went actually up a little bit. Now, did they go up to the level that they had in those earlier months this year, May, June, where they were up like a lot? No, but it was still up quite a bit. It was up 5.5% year on year for the month of August. That's a big increase. That's actually the fourth largest increase year on year in the entire calendar year. So let's see here. The month of May was up 12.4%, and June was up 18.3% year on year. So those are the months that I referenced were like a lot. And that what was the result of that was that sellers were seeing, okay, interest rates are going up. We need to perhaps list our home more quickly than we normally would because we need to get this sold before our home potentially loses value or potentially we're no longer in a seller's market. That's what people were panic listing during those months. The last time we saw an increase over 5% year on year for new listings was September of 2021, which saw a 6.3% year on year increase. So for August to have a 5.5% increase year on year for new listings, that's a big number. I'm not sure what the reason for that number is. The only thing that I can think is that, again, people saying we need to do this now before the fall slowdown happens. And so perhaps for the month of September, we will see new listings dive off. That is kind of what I'm expecting, kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot fewer new listings than what we saw in August. So I'm thinking that September new listings are going to be down quite a bit. People are going to readjust things. I think we saw some peaks and we're going to see some valleys in new listings that are kind of not the norm. And so I think as we're entering into this slower season, what's normally the seasonal slower season, I think it's going to be very slow is kind of what I'm anticipating. And slow on both fronts, both on new listings and on people making purchases. That's what I anticipate. Pending sales, again, as I always say, this is a count of properties on which offers have been accepted in a given month, and for some reason, it's always wrong for the most recent month. So I'm not going to look at the pending sales for the month of August. I am going to look at the month of July, which pending sales were down the biggest decrease year on year that we've had the past calendar year. They were down minus 14.5% year on year from July 2021, which saw 1,533 pending sales, through July 2022, which saw, again, that minus 14.5% or a 14.5% decrease down to 1,310, which is also the least number of pending sales that we've seen since January and December, which is, that's a big decrease. January and December tend to be two of our slowest months. July typically is one of the busier months. So that obviously, again, indicative that we're seeing a major slowdown. Now, what's interesting is when we look at closed sales for the month of August, you would anticipate if pending sales in July were down as far as they were, that closed sales for the month of August would be down quite a bit as well. But actually, closed sales were up 0.5%, not 5%, 0.5%. And so still a strong month for the month of August for closed sales. So what I'm guessing is that that decrease in July pending sales, what we're going to see, the impact from that is probably going to impact us more in the month of September. So we'll have to see. I'm guessing that closed sales for the month of September are going to be substantially lower than what we saw in September of 2021. That's something that we'll have to track and see. Days on market until sale, exactly the same year on year, 21 days. This is the first time in a very long time that we have seen a flat line year on year of the days on market until sale. Now, that's a product of a few things. One is that it really can't go much lower than 21 days, right? The lowest that we have ever seen on this graph is 18 days. So we're still historically extremely low. But also, I think that we will for sure start to see this number go up. It's going to go up. That is what we can expect as we go into this slower holiday season, slower fall winter season. The days on market until sale, it's going to creep up from 21. Probably in the upcoming months, we'll see it go back into the 30s. That's normal. It's never been in these low 20 numbers until just recently. And so I expect that number to go up. And that's good. That's good for buyers, right? We these multiple offer situations are stressful for everyone. It's stressful when homes go off the market right away. You have situations where it's not even good for sellers sometimes. Because you get all these offers that come in, and it's hard to know who's really serious or who is just making a panic purchase. Panic purchases are not good. I had a contract that fell through just recently. That was a panic offer, and then the buyer immediately had buyer's remorse. Now, we did in that instance get their termination fee, so that was good. But it was frustrating nonetheless that we had a panic purchase. It's better if buyers have had time to look at the property, had time to think about it, assess their options, and then decide, you know what, I do want this property. I'm not making a rash decision. I'm not making a panic decision. No, I want this property. That is the better scenario than the alternative of they have to make a quick decision and then sometimes they make a decision that they regret. Median sales price. Median sales price is the lowest that it has been since April of 2022. Does that mean prices are going down? You will see some headlines right now that say that. I'm not ready to say that. Okay, and here's why. First off, year on year, it was up 14.8%. That's still incredibly high. So in August of 2021, our median sales price was $270,000. In August of 2022, it was $310,000. So that is what you kind of expect, or that's the dividing line. That's basically, it's not technically the average, it's the median, but we look at the median, tends to be a more accurate number. $310,000 is right now your average, roughly speaking, home sale in Greenville County. Now, if you want the true average is $370,000. Technically, it's $370,618, which that was a 12.8% increase year on year. But again, that's skewed by properties at the very top of the market, properties that are selling for $1 million, 1.2 million, etc. So we look at the median, 310. That's the number that I'm going to be telling people when they ask me, hey, what's the average price point in Greenville right now? $310,000. So that was up year on year, 14.8%. The reason why I'm not looking at this and saying, oh, it's down month on month, or we're seeing a decrease month on month, right? Because May was 317,000, June was 312,000, July was 317,000, and now August 310,000. This is normal. If you were to look at the historical graph for this, it is normal for there to just be seasonal fluctuations. Now, what we typically see is even with those seasonal fluctuations from January of one year to January of the next year, we have seen an increase. And so the fluctuations result in a net increase over a 12-month period of time. But it's not uncommon for us to see, perhaps even there are some years, like I'm looking at 2018, our graph from 2018, it was hovering right around $200,000. So from, let's see here, what month is this? It's hard for me to tell because I'm just looking at dots. April of 2018, I believe it was April of 2018, the median sales price was $200,000. It climbed up into the 220s and then dropped back down by the end of the year. By, I believe this is November, it dropped back down in November to $200,000. So you would say, oh, wow, okay, so we had a decrease from the summer into the winter season. No, that's a seasonal fluctuation. These things happen. There's a variety of reasons for why those things happen. One of them is that those more expensive properties tend to not sell as much. They tend to not list as much or sell as much during the winter for a variety of reasons. A lot of the most expensive properties are vacation homes. People are oftentimes using their vacation homes during the winter, and so they tend to not sell them during that time. So there's a lot of different considerations when it comes to that. I'm not looking at this number, even though it's technically a month-on-month decrease, unless it's a dramatic decrease, which this is not, because this is essentially it's only $7,000 less than what last month was. And when you're talking about properties in the $300,000 range, $7,000 is not a lot of money. And again, we have the year-on-year 14.8% increase. Now that number is a lot lower than what we've seen. That's the lowest year-on-year increase since October 2021. So here is the significant thing, is that we are seeing the year-on-year slow down a little bit. And so that's good. We need to see that. Hopefully, inflation will start to get a little bit more under control. And as inflation gets a little bit more under control, housing inflation, which we also call appreciation, we call it appreciation, but when it's going up by 20%, that's an inflationary type of appreciation. It's not healthy. Really, I think we need to see this number get below 10%. I think that would be good for the market as a whole. So we'll have to keep tracking that. Another number that really jumps off the screen, the percent of list price received, which is the percentage found when dividing a property's sales price by its most recent list price, then taking the average for all properties sold in a given month. And here's a key phrase: not accounting for seller concessions. And another key phrase was the most recent list price. So this percent of list price received is not accounting for whether a house has dropped its price at any point, and it's also not accounting for any seller concessions. Well, I've got news for you. Recently, we have had a lot more price drops and a lot more seller concessions than we have had in the past 2 years, really. And so this number is already going to be skewed. We would expect this number to still be very high, but even the highness of the number is not going to compare to previous months very well. The previous months that were well over 100% of list price received were even higher than that when you looked at it historically, because there were basically no seller concessions and basically no price changes. Well, for the month of August, we saw it dip below 100% for the first time since the month of October 2021. October tends to be a buyer-friendly month for a variety of reasons that we've talked about in the past. But that decreased to 99.5%, which was the percent of list price received. So on average, a listing that sold received 99.5% of what it was listed for in the month of August. That is a massive decrease year on year from the 100.6% that we saw in August of 2021. That is down 1.1%. We haven't seen that number go down by that much in quite some time. So that is a big indicator of the market shifting. Now, 99.5% historically, still very high. What we expect to see in order for the market to be closer to what it was back in, pre-pandemic, we'll just say, would be for that number to be closer to 98%. So we will keep tracking that. Housing affordability index, that one got a little bit better. We saw housing affordability go from 75 to 76. That's good. That housing affordability index measures housing affordability for the region. And I'm just reading this off of the GGAR sheet. For example, an index of 120 means the median household income is 120% of what is necessary to qualify for the median priced home under prevailing interest rates. A higher number means greater affordability. 76 is still very low. I was looking at this very number for, I believe it was Minneapolis. And these numbers are way higher in Minneapolis. In other words, Minneapolis is a lot more affordable for its residents than Greenville is, which was very interesting for me to see, because their Association of Realtors produces a chart very similar to this one. So 76 is very low. I hope that number goes up a bit without people's home values completely tanking. Inventory of homes for sale. Okay, so this is where we start to see some other numbers that pop off the screen. June was up 42.6%. So again, this is supply, measuring supply. June was up 42.6%. July was up 42.6%, again, year on year. August was up 77.8% year on year. So this is the number of properties available for sale in active status at the end of a given month. 77.8% increase August 2022 versus August 2021. Again, this is the major indicator of all indicators that the market is shifting, is when we see supply going up. So it's at 3,772 for the month of August versus 2,121 for the month of August 2021. Massive increase. Now, how does that compare to the past? Still very low. Still very low. Pre-pandemic, we were in the 4,000s. Now, it was the low 4,000s, so we're not very far away from that. We could see us hit pre-pandemic levels as early as this month. In fact, I kind of am anticipating that that's what's going to happen. But what's weird about this, and I've mentioned this in the past, is how much of this is fueled by new construction. I just ran the numbers on what is currently in active status as of right now, September 19th, 2022, and 48% of active listings are new construction in MLS. That is insane. So people that are not wanting new construction, which is a lot more people than you might think, they are still seeing only half of these numbers basically are resale homes. So I do think we have to take that into account. I don't know historically what the standards were for active inventory, how much of that was resale versus new construction. I'm sure there's a way that I can pull that. Maybe that'll be a future episode. But right now, it seems like it's way out of whack. And so inventory for resales is still, in my opinion, probably historically quite low in comparison to what it's been in the past. Month supply of inventory, again, this is the number that's pegged to the pending sale number. So we're not going to look at August, but July, we finally saw it go above 2 months. It went up to 2.1 months inventory. That's a 50% year-on-year increase from July 2021. This number, I expect to see creep into the threes very soon. Okay, as we enter the seasonal slowdown, unless new listings really drop off, we should anticipate that month supply of inventory will, in our area, creep up into the probably the mid twos first, and then eventually maybe even before the end of the year. But for sure, I believe by the beginning of 2023, we'll see this number in the threes. That number, once we get into 3 months supply of inventory, now we're starting to look at, again, pre-pandemic levels of inventory. It's going to feel a lot slower, but it's still going to be a seller's market. Okay, it will still be a seller's market unless we start to see the month supply get into the 5, 6, 7 month range. Only then will we truly be able to say, okay, this market might be flipping back to a buyer's market. As I'm looking on the historical numbers, really we didn't see it in buyer's market territory until it really hit the 6 month level, and that's kind of the conventional wisdom as well. Now, some of you might be looking at some stats, some I believe it's Case Shiller, different statistics like that would indicate that we're nationally at like 8-9 months inventory. These inventory numbers are measured in different ways, and so you have to really look at it historically, compare it to the historical, and that will tell you more than anything. Like if I say 6 months inventory is when we start to see it go into a buyer's market, you might be looking at some of these national numbers and be like, well, we're already well past 6 months inventory. Okay, this is, again, this is a Greenville podcast, and everything that I'm saying is based on the Greenville market. It does not apply necessarily nationally. It also is not apples to apples, everything that I'm saying, to any other market as well. So specifically for Greenville, if we see that number start to approach 6 months inventory, that's when we'll know that the market is starting to really shift dramatically. But right now we're far away from there. Right now we're still in the twos. I'd be surprised if we're not still in the twos for the month of August once those numbers get revised after this month. And perhaps, like I said, before the end of the year, we might see it get into the 3 month range or exceed the 3 month range. We'll just have to wait and see. We have already run long on this podcast, so I'm going to cut it off there. Obviously, I could keep going. You guys know I can keep going with these numbers all day, but I think you get a sense. Market is for sure shifting. We're seeing some big changes. I will say this in conclusion. I had someone contact me on Saturday looking to sell a property potentially. And what I told this person, that we had the discussion of what's the market going to do? Is now a good time to sell, or should we wait until later? I am not a fan of trying to wait until later. That is saying that you're trying to time the market, and we don't know what the market's going to do. If I had to guess, I would guess the market is, as we've indicated, going to trend more in the buyer's direction. So people that are looking to sell, I do not try to time the market and try to find, okay, maybe it's going to be better. Maybe things are going to pick up. Maybe I should wait until spring. Spring is a better time to sell. We might be in a recession come spring. We have no idea what's going to happen 6 months from now. So don't try to time the market. I also, as a buyer, I don't recommend that buyers try to do that either. Although if you're a buyer, I feel better from a buyer's perspective, simply from the standpoint of home prices probably kind of flatlining a little bit. But you're also going to find all indicators that that the Fed is going to increase rates and that mortgage rates are going to continue to go up. They might blow way past 6%. We might, I mean, at this point, I'm not going to be surprised if we see mortgage rates get into the 7s at some point here in the next 6 months. And so if that happens, it might completely offset whatever changes in affordability that we see in the next 6 months or so. So I'm not a big fan of trying to time the market when it comes to real estate because real estate is impacted by so many different things. And generally speaking, those who try to time the market don't end up with a good result. So that's my personal opinion. I'm not an investor, or I am an investor, as you guys know. I don't offer investment advice, okay? I'm not a financial advisor. Talk to your financial advisor about all these things. I can only tell you what I think is going to happen in the real estate world or what might happen in the real estate world. But for your specific situation, you need to talk to your financial team, your investment team, and then go from there. All right, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. All of my contact information is in the show notes. Rate, review, subscribe, download episodes. All of those things help the show. And until then, until next week, I hope you guys stay safe, and we'll talk again next time.